Okay, today's presenter will be Senior GP Consultant, Miss Stephanie Jordan. Stephanie, you can take it away from here.
All right. Can you hear me all right?
We can.
All right. Good morning or good afternoon, like Michael said. Thanks everybody for taking a little bit of time out of what I'm sure are busy days this time of year for everybody to spend with us and to just go through some tips and tricks and just some follow up on your everyday GPUs, some things that I don't see folks using that may make your life a little bit easier. So let's get started because we have a lot to go through and not a ton of time. So again, we're going to kind of breaking this presentation down into 3 parts. Using GP every day, some things that I think might make your life a little bit easier, some tips and tricks, and then talk about our Sikich help desk a little bit. So let's go with everyday use. And as you'll see as I go through this presentation, I'm going to jump back and forth between GP and my presentation just to show you a few things. We won't get super in depth, but I think that some of the things are important to see. I am not clicking that, so I'm not sure how that's happening, so I apologize. Bear with me. All right, so the first thing is our user login and our company selection. A lot of folks know this, some don't, but I'm in GP and this is version 2016. You don't have to log out of GP to switch companies. In the bottom left-hand corner, it'll list your company name. If you click on that, it'll open your drop-down list for the companies that you have access to. So it's just an easy way to get from company to company if you have multiple. The reverse of that is, let's say, for instance, you call the help desk and we need to get in as an SA user. Instead of logging out and logging back in, if you click on your current user, this will open the user ID and password screen so we can connect that way. Just quicker than having to log out. I know some folks, GP can take an awful long time to load, so this just moves things along a bit more quickly. Now we'll go to our next slide. The next thing is our user preferences. If anybody's ever done new user training, I swear I'm not doing anything, done new user training with me, this is one of the first things that we'll go through. And I think it's, Michael, I swear, it's got a mind of its own today.
Except if you go back to your PowerPoint, you'll be able to take off those timings, and that's probably what it is. At the top, you'll see use timings.
Thank you. I apologize, everybody, for doing that. Do I need to uncheck anything else?
Try transitions as well, just to make sure. We'll go up there at the top next to animations.
Yep.
Then make sure to uncheck after. Yep.
Oh,
perfect. And then
goodness. I am sorry. Oh, go to transitions. Do what?
Apply to all right there in the timing. Or on mouse click. Just click on mouse click under advanced slide.
There we go.
And then you can apply that. Yep. Perfect.
Thank you very, very much. All right, let's see if I can actually do this now. So the next thing is user preferences, and GP has some standard setups that don't necessarily work for everybody. And I think the biggest one is the entry key option. So I'm going to pop back into GP here. And if you go to Microsoft Dynamics and user preferences, these options are going to pull up. This entry key one is the biggest one. Microsoft has ingrained in our brains that they want you to use tab. So when you want to go to field, it wants to use the tab button. Some folks are just more comfortable with the enter key. So that would be choosing return over tab. It's what you're more comfortable with. There's also some other options here. If you never ever print anything to a printer, you can choose a default screen. There's other places to make that selection based on specific report, but this is just sort of an overall, and this is user specific as user preferences. Some other things here, the other big one that I always suggest folks do, especially our new users, is click this display button. And when you're in here, there's a required fields option, and you can change it to red and bold. GP, as many of you know, wants you to do certain things and wants you to enter certain fields. If they look like everything else, it's sort of hard to pick them out. So if you change it to red and bold, you will know that those have to be filled in in order to move on. So just one of the things that I take a quick look at when I'm first using GP. The other thing in here is if you're newly set up, this password option will be available. I'm set up as the SA user, so you can't change the password here, but any other user you can. You would open this, put in your old password, put in your new password, and then your password for GP will be changed. So it's just sort of good to know that it's here, to know that there's different options that you can select. All right, now we'll go back to our presentation and hopefully it will behave. Creating a quick link. I think for a lot of folks, when I connect with them, I see a lot of quick links, and I think that that's great. If you are a user who always is entering sales transaction entry or sales orders or invoices, whatever it may be, or always doing inventory transactions, and you have to go into the module in order to get to the window, a quick link is going to allow you right from your home page to get to that window. So there's no navigating. You don't have to go to the top and go transactions, inventory, and item transaction. Literally be right there on your home page. I put a note here because when you're looking at the quick links option, these fields aren't available. You sort of have to hover over it, and this pencil becomes available, and then you can add your quick link. Adding a GP shortcut. I see this utilized a lot with our financial folks or our folks that are in the system and they're jumping out of GP to do a lot of other things. So adding a shortcut, and in this case, we're going to add an external shortcut, allows you to be in GP, looking at your home page, and if you say, oh, I need to go to the banking website to get my statement, or I need to go to the banking website because this doesn't make sense, you can get there right from GP. You're not launching Chrome or whatever you may use. So let's just create one so I can show you exactly what that looks like. So I'm back on my home page, and see this, we call this our navigation pane over here on the left. I'm going to right click in there, and this add option is going to come up. I'm going to click add, and in this case, I'm going to add an external shortcut. So for instance, I'm going to spell it properly. Let's say we use Bank of America. And I know that it's bankofamerica.com. And you can certainly browse out and find it. And I also want to add a hotkey. So if I'm in here, I can just hit my shortcut key and it will go. So I'm going to hit my done. And I'm going to save my changes. And now I'm going to click on this. And apparently I put in the wrong website, which is very helpful. So I'm going to come in here, probably needs my HTTPS. Let's come back here. You'll get to see how we're going to delete it. And then we're going to do it again. Add an external shortcut, Bank of America. Add that in there and click F2. I'm going to click add and I'm going to click done. This time it works, and it's going to open with whatever default browser you have, but then this will open right for you. And again, I'm going to come in here, I closed it, and now I'm hitting my F2 key. Same thing's going to happen. So it just gives you the opportunity to not have to go to Google or not have to go to IE and enter it. You can do it and have everything listed here in your navigation pane. All right. The next thing that I think is helpful that not everybody knows about or utilizes is within GP, every GP window, and in this case, if you look at my item maintenance window here on the left-hand side, at the bottom, there is a blue circle with a white question mark. That is going to open your GP version help windows. And in this instance, it's going to open it for this specific window. So our item maintenance window. At the top, so now I'm on my screenshot on the right, there's three options. There's overview, there's fields, and there's buttons. Overview is going to tell you what the window does. Fields is going to tell you what each field in the window means. And the buttons is going to tell you, so we see save, clear, delete, and copy. It's going to tell you what they do. I think it's helpful for new users, or if you're even, you set up items so infrequently that you just can't remember what the unit of measure schedule is or why it needs to be there. Go in here, you can find unit of measure schedule, they're alphabetical, and read a little bit about it to understand why it's requiring you to put that field in there. And like I said, every window has them. And then you can also just get to the index, and on the left-hand side of that right-hand window, you can see that you could type in there and you could do some searching. So it's sort of a GP, very specific way for you to do some troubleshooting on your own, or if you have any questions. So those were the things that every day I think people probably use. I know I use a lot of them on a daily basis, just within my processing and understanding, what I may be doing, or to make my life a little bit easier and to move things along a bit more quickly. Now we're going to go on to some tips and tricks. Just so everybody knows, these tips and tricks are for all of our versions of GP. So our versions up to what we currently are on. And if I'm talking about a tip and you go back to GP and you're like, Stephanie, this isn't here. You don't know what you're talking about. It just may not be available in your version. So if that comes up, please reach out to Michael and let him know and say, we really liked the idea of this, but I don't seem to have it. It could be security related or it could be version related. So we just sort of need to figure that out. Our first thing is for those folks that are setting up new users. And as you know, GP, or a lot of you may know, the GP security is pretty robust. You can limit things down to very specific windows and very specific processes, and some folks have taken an awful lot of time to set up their security that works best for their group. So with all of that, let's say somebody leaves and somebody new is getting hired. This functionality allows you to copy from one user to the next their security rights. So you're not having to recreate the wheel. You're not having to go out there and, check off every single role that you want a person to have. If Betty Sue has left and Shirley's coming in, then let's just copy Betty Sue's access to Shirley. It'll copy her company or her database access. It'll copy her specific access per company. And then you can just move on. It's just quicker, and you know that Betty Sue could do it, so Shirley's going to be able to do it. Taking a company offline, we see this utilized by IT mostly, and I've utilized it with some IT groups before. So in this instance, everybody has worked, and you've gotten an email from your team saying that Wednesday morning, nobody can get into the system right away because Sikich is going to be doing some maintenance. Now, I know how everybody loves to come in and just start working and people forget, and then you get messages from me saying you can't be logged in. This sort of alleviates some of that. It allows us to take the company offline. So if you're in the system, it won't boot you out, but once you log out, it won't allow you to log back in until we sort of grant access for folks to get back in. The next one is a new feature a feature being able to update emails. So some of you folks are utilizing the GP functionality in order to send emails using the GP templates and to send sales orders or purchase orders, whatever it may be. And as you know, on the customer card, you would set up whether they're allowed to receive invoices or sales orders. And you're also going to define who you want your email to go to. Well, let's just say Danielle gets all of our invoices, and you find out Danielle is out for the next 3 weeks and Charlie needs to get the invoices. If you don't want to change it on the card because you know Danielle will be back, you can change it in the specific sales invoice just to have it go to Charlie in this specific instance. So you're not changing your setups, you are just changing it for one specific record, And then it'll, the next time an invoice is put in, it'll go back to being sent to Danielle. Next is the professional PSTL, or the Professional Services Tools Library. Any of you who have worked with me even before on the help desk know that it's a powerful tool and it allows you to do a lot of different things. The other thing you know about me is that I will always tell you nobody should be in the system and you should have a full backup of the database. Now, when I say that, I'm not talking just about the customer copy feature that we're going to talk a little bit about today. I'm talking about any of the features. It is a very powerful tool that allows you to manipulate data in a lot of different ways. And I'll bring up the PSTL so everybody can see it. But there is no reverse. There is no, oh, I hit this by accident. I combined these two customers. I merged this vendor by accident. Can you undo it? My answer to you is always going to be no. Did you take a backup? So when I talk about the PSTL, I'm always going to tell you, please have a backup of your data and have everybody out. And after you've run it, validate your data. Make sure things look good. The other thing is you have to be in as a system administrator to use this functionality. GP just requires it because it knows how powerful it is, and it doesn't want people doing things by accident. The other thing is it is an install. I mean, it's a simple install, but it does need to, whether it was installed when GP was first installed, whether you're on a terminal server or local, it does need to be installed to be utilized. In this instance, we're going to talk about the company copy. So, and you will hear me say this 100 times, I always revert back to my help desk brain because that's where I live most of the time. If you come to me with an issue and it is complicated and it is going to take some digging and really getting into a problem, you will almost always hear me say, let's do it in test first. And the reason is because it gives us the freedom to really troubleshoot it and not worry about, are we manipulating data in a production environment that we can't take back? Well, this tool, it can help us create that test company if for some reason you don't have one. A lot of folks do, and there's other ways to create it, but if we need to copy all the information over for some reason, this can help us do that. Because I've talked about the PSTL, I want to just go into it and show you guys, and Professional Services Tools Library, you'll hear me use my PSTL quite a bit, but these are all the different things that it can do. And there's actually, in this version, which some of you probably know, I believe it's in sales and in purchasing, the vendor combiner and the customer combiner, for some reason they took it out of the PSTL and just made it a utility, but you still can't use it unless you're the system administrator. So you may see it and say, oh yes, we definitely need to do this. Unless you're the system administrator, you still can't do it. That used to be part of the PSTL. But again, here are some of the other tools. Modifying accounts, modifying checkbooks. I just used the 1099 modifier a few times because everybody was having so much fun with their 1099s this year. Inventory, there's a bunch of different tools as far as inventory goes. There's an item reconciler, which is similar to inventory reconcile. The item reconciler tends to just move a bit more quickly in the PSTL. But again, I never get tired of saying it. You should never run any of these things unless everybody is out of the system and you have a full database backup. Super, super, super important. That's why I will always say it. But these are the tools. Again, you have to be in as SA to use it. So a lot of you have probably never seen it before. But if you have a pesky problem like, I've got these two customers and they're the same person, but somebody entered them differently, I just want them to be one, we can accomplish that. All right, so everybody's sick of hearing me say take backups and you have to be in as SA. I suppose that I will move on. The next tip is, I use it all the time and I get surprised sometimes when folks don't know it's available. And it's as simple as a Control-C and a Control-V. For anybody, or for those of you who haven't used it before, it's Control-C means copy, Control-V means paste. So if you are in an Excel spreadsheet and you are finding let's just say a sales order document number that you need to go then look up in GP, you highlight the cell and you hit Control-C, and then you were to go into sales document inquiry and hit Control-V, it's going to copy and paste it for you. I know that it seems silly, but I would rather not have to right click and scroll down and hit copy. I would rather be able to use my left hand, and in my case, my left hand, and be able to Control-C, Control-V. It will just happen more quickly. So I think it's a cool tool, or a cool, functionality that not everybody knows about and that can help you move more quickly. The next one is document attach. Some folks have a bunch of customers or have customers that require a lot of documents. And in this instance, let's just say with your customer card, they have, a 10-page document that says how things need to be done or how they want things invoiced or any sort of information that is important for your group to know. And it can be stored in GP. This functionality allows you to scan it and allowed you to scan multiple pages. It's just faster and it gets everything in there for you, and it's just a new feature that has come up. The next one, and I'm sure all of my financial folks and anybody who works with the general ledger has seen this allow account entry option before. When you're entering an account, it's by default checked off because GP is assuming in most instances you want to allow these accounts to have entries to the general ledger. In some instances, you don't. So if for some reason nobody should be making entries to a certain account, you uncheck that. If someone were to try, they would get an error message that said, this account does not allow account entry. It's just a control over certain accounts in your general ledger. Copy and paste from Excel. Again, my financial folks seem to love this in the newer versions because a lot of people work out of Excel. They do a lot in Excel and they're creating journal entries there. And then they were having to do some sort of import over to our journal entry window. Microsoft built in functionality right into the transaction entry window in the financial module to be able to copy and paste. It's a pretty simple process. You just have to have the Excel spreadsheet set up, description, account, debit, credit, that sort of thing. And it's as simple as a copy. And then at the top of the window, I know it's grayed out, it's a bit hard to see, but there's a paste option. And you can paste it right in there. It will tell you whether or not it balances like any other transaction, and then you can move on. So if you work out of Excel and you need to bring it into the general ledger or to bring it as a journal entry, it's a quicker way to do that. Now we're going to talk about the reconcile to GL functionality that was built into GP, and they've built in different modules at different times, so you may have it, you may not have all the modules based on your version, but I really want to stress with this functionality that this is not your main source of reconciliation. This is not what Microsoft envisioned, where you're gonna run this report and you're gonna reconcile and it's gonna tell you. It is a tool. Simple as that. It is a tool that you can utilize to help you identify reconciliation issues. In a lot of instances, it may be correct. Your balance in your subledger may be identical to your balance in your general ledger on this report. I will tell you more often than not, that's not the case. And the reason is because folks are getting things into the system, getting transactions into the system in different ways. And it may not always update this report for one reason or another. As many of you know, and I'm sure I'm going to get some smiles and chuckles for this, sometimes GP doesn't do what we expect it to do. It's technology. It just doesn't sometimes. And sometimes this report gets a little bit out of sync with what's gone on in the system. when you will hear me say, did you run the reconcile to GL? And the other thing I want to stress is this is not manipulating your data in any way. It is generating a report for you. It is in Excel, it's behind our screenshot there. It's generating an Excel-based report that is broken up into 3 sections: unmatched transactions, potentially matched transactions, and then matched. And you're running it from your subledger to your general ledger. And a lot of times what will happen is somebody will say, I have $5,000 that posted to my subledger, but I don't see it in my general ledger. I've looked everywhere. And I balanced on 12/31, so this had to have happened in January. This, if you run this, and it doesn't always tell you, but it can be very helpful sometimes. If you run this for our 1/1/2018 through 1/31/2018, it will identify any transactions if it hit the subledger and did not hit the general ledger. So if you see a transaction, then you can dig in. In that instance, a lot of times it will just be it didn't get posted for some reason. There are instances where, for whatever reason, it got deleted out of the GL if you have things stop. It happens sometimes. And then there's a lot of other, this reconciling, and when things are off, it could be a lot of different things. But this is a tool. This is a tool to help you reconcile. As a note, if you've never used this before and you say, I'm going to try it, fantastic. Just be aware, and I only found this a couple of weeks ago, is if you decide to run it for all of 2017, that is a huge number of transactions, let's say for AR. Say you do tons of AR processing. It does have its limits with how many rows it can field, and it could throw an error. If that happens, my suggestion to you will be break it down into smaller chunks. So if you want to do, period 1, or if you want to do quarter 1, just sort of break it down, because then it'll give you a better idea. Plus, working with a report that's hundreds of thousands of lines is going to be nearly impossible anyways. So I have found that this tool works better if you're doing it on a monthly basis, even a quarterly basis. This can be much more beneficial. All right. Outstanding transaction report. It just allows you to reprint it, and it's available, after you run your reconcile. If for whatever reason, your bank rec, if for some reason you didn't get your outstanding transactions report, it allows you to reprint it. And it's like anything else under reports, and this one's under financial posting journals, and then the drop down, you'll see outstanding transactions reports. Again, this was a feature, and I don't know the exact version that it was added, but it may not be available in your version. It would be available in some of the later versions. Price list wizard. So for folks that are using the standard pricing within GP, and you have to do price updates or add a price list or something like that, they added this wizard to help streamline it for you, help make it a little bit easier. And the other really great thing about it is it shows you what it's doing before it actually does it, so that it doesn't just add all of these things and you're saying that was not at all what I meant to do. So it allows you, like you see here, add, update, copy, remove, all of those sorts of things. And again, it lets you see what it's going to do before it does it. But in true Stephanie fashion, I'm still going to tell you to take a backup. And I probably would have you run it into a test company first. But that's just me. Then we have the adjust cost functionality. And if you had a purchase receipt come in, and for some reason the current cost of an item or the receipt cost of an item just got changed to something ridiculous. Somebody was just going too fast, and an item that should cost $28 in this instance was put in for $55, you can see in my example. You can come in here and we can adjust the cost. This is one of those instances, though, where GP is going to correct itself. So GP is going to look at all the things that have happened since we received this in, if the item has been sold, if the item has been moved, And it's going to make adjustments for that. And what I mean by that is if you receive something in, right, and then you sell it, you have now hit inventory and cost of goods sold. And you have hit inventory and cost of goods sold for an incorrect cost. So if you come in here and fix this, GP is then going to go and fix that because it's saying, well, it shouldn't have been sold at that. It shouldn't have been sold at that number. It shouldn't have been sold at that cost. So again, to make sure you understand what you're doing, this is a perfect example of restore your current database over test, have valid data, and proof it out before you do it. This is not something you want to just come in here and change things. You want to make sure you understand exactly what's going on. And I will tell you, every time I run this, I have to do it in test first so I can wrap my head around what's gone on. Next is paid transaction removal. And my next two slides sort of work with each other. So there are folks out there that don't want to run paid transaction removal because when you run this, it moves things to history. As long as you're keeping history, that's the big thing there. If you're not keeping history, it's going to remove it. I would never suggest that. There's certainly some instances where we could remove old history, but in this instance, I'm always going to suggest keeping transactional history, which 99.9% of folks are. But paid transaction removal, part of your period processes, your month-end processes, to move those transactions, those fully paid, receivables transactions to history. And the reason that I like it so much is because when you are in GP and you are looking at your transaction by customer window, for instance, I spend a lot of time in there. And let's just go there. So we're going to come into sales here, and I'm in my inquiry transactions by customer window. And I've got these include work, open, and history. If I uncheck history, because quite honestly, let's just say I don't care about it, right? In this instance, I am looking for open documents. This customer I do tons of business with. If I don't run paid transaction removal, I am going to have just tons of transactions in here, and it's going to make it almost impossible to sort of wade through. So paid transaction removal moves things to history. Things that are not fully paid, they're going to stay open or fully applied if it happens to be a payment or credit, whatever it may be. And then it just makes it a bit easier to work with. On the flip side of that, because some folks are going to say, well, Stephanie, what happens if 6 months down the line, I get, an NSF check or something? Microsoft built a tool inside of that PSTL that allows you to open historical documents or unapply them. So if you've got things in history that were fully applied, there is a tool in there that we can go in and unapply it so it pushes everything back to open. So, you find out 6 months later you put an invoice completely in wrong, and for some reason you have to fix it, we can unapply it. We can fix that for you. And I'm not going to say it, but you guys can see it about my backups and all of that good stuff. It reigns true here because you just have to be careful, especially if you're unapplying a payment. What else is it applied to? Make sure you know the impact of doing what you're doing. Next, we have write-offs on the fly. So there is write-off functionality in GP where you can run a process and write things off. But let's say in this instance, we had an invoice in there for $938 and some change. They paid me $900, and I know that is all I'm getting. I am not getting the last $38, whatever it may be. It may be terms, and in this window, I could take my terms, but let's just say it's not. I know that they agreed to pay $900, and we went over. Whatever it is, you can write it off here as you apply it. So you don't have to necessarily use the write-off process. You can do it right here. Next, we've got vendor purchase accounts. Just gives you the ability to assign more than one purchasing account for a vendor, so that when you're going in and you're putting in some sort of, when you're putting in a receipt, my screenshot on the right, and you click the lookup, it'll show you those purchases accounts that are related to this vendor. so that you don't have to look through everything to find it. And obviously you're going to set a default, or if you want to set a default, you can check it off on the vendor card, but this allows you to have more options and an easy way to get to it. Next, we have refund checks. It's an AR to AP process. So, you know, you have an invoice in there for 500 bucks and they paid you 1,000 because they made a mistake or they were prepaying for something else, whatever it may be, and now you have a credit balance on their account. And they call you and say, I need that money back, or, you know, for whatever reason, you can create a check through your payables system to give them that money back, and it will, you know, apply to your credit that's sitting there, and, you know, it just sort of flows through the system. But it allows you to use your check creating process out of GP. Check remittance, functionality that just hadn't been there before. It just gives you the ability to recreate your check stub. They have to be printed, right, for it to recreate it. And it'll print screen or whatever you want. It just allows you to recreate it so that you can see what it was. This is some interesting functionality that they've built in if you have to do PO prepayments. And, you know, a lot of folks in the past have had to create, you know, some sort of payment out of GP and then wait till it was invoiced to apply the payment that may have already been in the system. There is some setup, and the window you see here is our purchase order processing setup window, excuse me, that goes along with you know, choosing the prepayment account where things are going to sit until they're received or whatever it may be, or to invoiced. But it does give you the ability to do that, and this says this was released in 2013. Next, a lot of folks I'm sure know about this, some don't, so I just wanted to point it out, is your AP checks on the fly. So, you know, you guys, you have a delivery of paper or something to the front office and they're handing you an invoice and they want to be paid right there and then. You don't have to enter your invoice and then build a check batch. You can just do a check on the fly, and when you're entering your invoice, if you can see that top or uppermost screenshot, in the bottom right-hand corner, you would just put in your check amount and you would hit print check, and it would allow you to print your check right there. Obviously, it would apply it right at that moment, and when you post, it would go through the same print payables check option. So if you happen to use McCorma, whatever it was, it would use it, and then it would allow you to print one of your checks when you posted it. Invoice is fully applied, move to history. You're no longer going to see it. I wanted to include the 1099 features because we got quite a few calls from folks. Obviously, the 1099 functionality and those had to be out. So I wanted to just include it just to let people know there are ways, you know, you forgot to set somebody up as a 1099 vendor. There are some utilities in GP to help you do that so that you get your right numbers. What we had to do in a lot of instances was go into, you know, under cards and 1099 details and update information that way, because in certain circumstances, that's all you can do. But if you have a vendor that was, let's just say, completely not set up as 1099 for all of 2017, there's some functionality in there to help. Now, as a side note, in the professional services tools library, there is a 1099 update tool as well. The difference between this and that is this is vendor specific, or it can be transaction specific. The 1099 tool in the PSTL is not. It is going to look and try to identify any transactions that, let's say, should have been 1099 because their vendor is set up that way that weren't. It does give you a preview, I believe, of what you're doing, which I highly suggest. Preview it, see what it's done before you run it. Or if you guys have questions, please come to us and we can certainly help with that. But again, as we've gotten through the 1099 time of year, there are things in GP that can help you if things were incorrect. Got a few minutes left. The next thing is our our all-in-one views. These are new. They came out in different versions. I think purchasing came out first, but it's an inquiry window basically that allows you to see everything in one place. I think they can be helpful in certain circumstances based on what you're trying to do, but a lot of folks just don't even know that they're there. So all-in-one views, on the latest versions, we've got inventory, sales, and purchasing, but you can do different sorts and to see different things, and they can be helpful. Lastly, just knowing what you have as far as out-of-the-box reporting goes. We've got Smart List, and in some of the newer versions, we've got Smart List Designer, which allows you to create some reports on your own that are a little bit more robust than what Smart List out of the box does. We've got Excel reports. With Excel reports, there is a little work behind them. You have to deploy them, and they may not have been, but for those folks who like to do pivot tables and work in Excel, those can be helpful. And then navigation lists, I see my financial folks use those quite a bit. It's in GP, and there's some standard out-of-the-box ones that they think can be helpful. The cool thing about navigation lists is it allows you to do certain functions. So let's just say, for instance, I need 10 invoices printed, 10 sales invoices printed. I can run this navigation list that's already there, and it lists all my invoices, and let's say they're all from a particular date. I can put the date in there. It'll show me everything that I printed on that day, or everything that has a document date, and I can just check them off in my navigation list and hit print. There's a print button. There's a function or it gives you the ability to actually do something, and you can print them. You can email them. The functionality is set up. So it's just, some of these things are interesting that people don't know are there, or haven't used in the past. And then with my last couple of minutes before I turn it over to Michael, because I may be a little biased because I work on the help desk, I just wanted to give some information of the things that I see most frequently. And I included some of our common Dynamics support issues. These are things we see come in a lot. I will put the caveat in there that some of these fixes require SQL knowledge, require SQL access, and you just want to be sure you have the right people in there doing it that understand SQL, that understand updating different tables. But it at least gives you an idea of what this is going to fix, because my next slide is how can you help us help you? And we have a bunch of tickets coming in, and we want to make sure that we route them as quickly as possible, and even more important, get you to the appropriate resource. So the more information that we get from you, the better. So understanding, if you tell us GP is GP down for one user, or is GP down for everybody? That helps us understand, and that leads into understanding urgency. If it's down for everybody, people want to get back in and they want to work. Make sure we know that. I'm sure most people do, especially in that instance. And then, with GP, whether it's management reporter, versioning information is helpful if you have it. If you don't, that's okay. We'll get it from you. We'll help you find it. But anything you have, and then we have email, and what you can put in the email to just help us route things versus help. If you've got the time, just to put in there a little bit more information to help us help you. So I have used all of my time plus a minute, but I am going to send it over to Michael briefly so he can talk about our support plans.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Yes. To kind of snowball on that, we wanted to showcase our support plans as a way that Sikich can help you even further. And now I am trying to get to be presenter. Sorry. So if no one's ever seen our support plans before, if you're new, they are options that are available to you on unlimited as well as by incident. I'll make sure to include this in our follow-up email that I'll send to everyone. But definitely take a look at this. Stephanie is one of our help desk experts. So being a part of this plan also means you get to work a lot with Stephanie. Any questions on that, just let me know. Stephanie, we do have questions. Do you mind if you take a few?
Nope, go for it.
Awesome. I'm going to send back presenter rights over to you in case we need to show anything. First question is, can you add a spreadsheet shortcut? Not sure if that was answered or not.
So yes, if you have, let's just say, a file on your on your desktop, I guess, you can add an external shortcut here. We can come out to Excel. Again, we'll spell it right. And if you were to browse out here, you can go and try to find, just find it. Let's just add my payroll year-end close notes. And then I would just click add and done. And if I click Excel, it's going to go into Word and it's going to pull up my document. So you just have to be able to get to it from GP is all.
Excellent. Can you show how to add a quick link?
Absolutely.
Don't see.
So my homepage is deceiving because they're not here, but in the top right-hand corner, I think you guys can see it says customize this page. I just have it unchecked, but if I check off quick links here and click OK, this becomes available. And let's just pull it up here so we can see it. So see how I'm just on my homepage and you can't, how do you add something? If I kind of hover over here, I'll see my pencil and I'm going to click add and I'm going to say a GP window. And I believe we were talking about the sales order processing window, right? So sales transaction entry. I chose that I wanted to add a transaction. I went to sales transaction entry, click OK. Click OK again. Why is nothing here? Oh, because right up here, see these two arrows? You have to hit refresh. When you hit refresh, you'll see it under your quick links, and now it opens the window for me.
Excellent. Thank you. Where do I go to see what type of reports I can force to print view when posting purchasing transactions, GL transactions, etc.? Like GL posting journal report.
So if we're talking about posting journals, if we're in financial or any of the modules, you can come to reports here, financial, and then this is, in this instance, it's bank posting journals. So you'll see posting journals somewhere. And this is our drop-down list of the different posting journals in the financial module that you can reprint. Sales would be the same way. Just quickly, if we come to sales, and it would say posting journals here, and then these are all the different options I have. Receivables, cash receipts, sales, voided transactions, they're all there.
And then we've got a few questions on this, kind of maybe a more general question to go over very quickly here, but could you talk a little bit more about Excel reports and how that might be beneficial to our clients here?
Sure. So the biggest benefit, I would say, to your Excel reports, and I apologize, I don't have them deployed in this version, or I would show you, but if we want to set something up, we'd all be happy to show you. But the biggest thing is that you're running a report to Excel. And, it's going to give you the ability to utilize some of the functionality that Excel has that GP doesn't. I can see what I'll do is, Michael, I'll see if I can find a bit of information to maybe send over, maybe some links on what they can do. And I sincerely apologize that I don't have them deployed. But again, they're going to Excel. There's the ability to have the information right there and then do what you may want to do to manipulate it to get totals or whatever it may be.
Perfect. And you know what, Stephanie? Anyone that is interested in more information on Excel dashboards or reports, we actually do have a recorded webinar that we did maybe last year that goes into a lot of detail there. So I think that might be something nice to share with everyone as well. So I will get that out too. Perfect. Got a few more questions here. When we were new to GP, there was one place I could go to view all reports and set them up in one place. That's the place I'm looking for that controls reports for all users as SA perhaps. So I think we're looking for where that might have been.
To control all reports. I might need a little bit, I'm not sure if I know exactly what you're talking about there. If we're talking about what reports folks have access to, or I don't know exactly what we're getting at there, to be honest with you.
Okay. Yeah, if anyone wants to maybe, whoever asked the question, if they want to clarify, we can try to get to that or get back to you in a follow-up email here. Excellent. Okay. We have one more question. Would it be possible to show how to do write-offs?
Sure. So if I come into sales here and give me 2 minutes, I'm just going to enter an invoice for a client I know I don't have a lot of information for. And this is just my play system. So let's say I have a $500 invoice, right? And I'm going to post this. And then I get my cash receipt, let's say. And they have paid me $450 because that is what my salesman told me I had to pay. And let's just post this. So you'd come in the apply sales documents window, right? Open item customer. Well, that's interesting. Apparently I have this guy set up differently. Let's just try this again. All right, so let's just come in here, and these are all, here's a payment we've got, and this one's got a remaining amount. So let's choose this guy. So we're going to pay this, but I know, like, let's just say there was, well, this isn't the full amount. So this would be really terrible, but let's say that they agreed to $1,000, right? But we charged them $7,500. Right here, as I'm applying, I could put my $7,500 write-off right there, and there are securities in there with how much we can write off, and you can put passwords so people aren't writing off crazy amounts, like this one, for instance. But right when you're applying it, you can do your write-off amount, and whatever account is set up behind the scenes, whether it's on the customer card or in our posting account setup, it will hit that once I hit the OK button. But it just gives you the ability to do it right when you're applying it.
Excellent. Thank you for doing that. Okay, we're winding down here. And I don't see that we have any more questions in the queue. Oh, we do have one more. I think we've got time for it.
Sure.
Can you show how to copy and paste a journal entry from Excel into a transaction entry screen, for example, a cash transaction?
Say that one more time.
Can you show how to copy and paste a journal entry from Excel into a transaction entry screen? For example, a cash transaction.
So this functionality is purely for creating journal entries. So if I come in here and I click Excel, and I don't think I have this on my screen anymore. Let's see. I don't think I have it on here, but you'd have to set it up where it's, let me go back to my screenshot so I know exactly which one it is. Copy paste, copy paste. Okay, so it's description, amount, debit, credit. So description, amount, debit, credit. So got our spreadsheet, right? And I just need 2 accounts from my system. 000221000. And I'm going to debit $500, and then I'm going to take 0006730, and I'm going to credit $500. I'm actually going to credit $500, and then let's just say test and test. So if I come in here and I just put in my reference here, you click in the first window, you hit copy. Oops. Actually, you would just hit right here and hit Control C in this instance, click in here and just hit paste. It'll paste it in. The big thing with this, we've seen issues in the past, just be clicked in this first field right here when you hit the paste button. And that's all you should need to do. So if I click, if I copy this again, just click here. It's actually not going to let me because I already did it, but it'll just allow you to just paste in there. This will become available.
Excellent. Okay. We are all out of time for questions here. And really would like to thank Stephanie for being here with us today. Again, if anyone has any questions or needs anything further, feel free to reach out to your client account manager, or I'll send that follow-up email sometime tomorrow. And feel free to get back to me with any questions there as well. We'll have the slides as well as the recording of the session. Feel free to share it with colleagues, friends, coworkers, and we hope that you enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks so much for joining us.